Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Apollo's Odyssey. I'm your host, Apolla Asteria, and I am back for a live show tonight. It's the first time I've done a live show in a little while because I know they're kind of pre-recorded and then played later because I do try to always have a show on Wednesday. But I am live tonight, so it's good to see you all in the chat. I always love doing the live shows and hanging out with you all, so that's always a good time. And tonight I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, which is advanced or evidence of advanced ancient technology. So, I mean, basically, like ancient civilizations in general are a favorite of mine. Favorite of mine to discuss and talk about, and kind of an obsession of mine, really. So, I wanted to get into this tonight. I thought it'd be a lot of fun. I pulled up a lot of different artifacts that are, I believe the term is material objects out of time, which is interesting because at Burning Man, they have a term called MOOP instead of MOOT, and that's material objects out of place, which I was gifted one by the Playa, as many of you may have seen on my previous shows. It's a little dragon knife. So that's pretty cool. But, so apparently what I'm going to be talking about tonight are not MOOPs, but material objects out of time. So that's going to be a really cool topic tonight. And again, thanks to you all for joining me. I actually just got back from the Galactic and Spiritual Informers collection in Orlando. It was kind of last minute. I wasn't really expecting to go. Otherwise, I would have announced it on my show here. But I ended up kind of getting it together last minute. My dear homie Laura Eisenhower kind of basically pushed me into going and begged me to come out and help me get a ticket and everything together last minute. So thankfully I was able to actually go, and I wasn't expecting to be there, but ended up flying out to Orlando last minute, and it was a great event. I definitely really enjoyed it a lot. There were a lot of my friends there, a lot who I haven't seen in a while. It's always great to network and meet new people. Hopefully some people that are in the chat right now may have actually just met me or heard of me from the conference. That's why, even if I'm not speaking at a conference, I always like to hit them up and at least be a part of them in any way I can. And that's a lot of fun. So I actually have a conference coming up, which I'll talk about later in the show tonight. And that is the Star Knowledge 1111 conference, which will be in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, the weekend of November 11th through 14th. So that's going to be a really awesome event. I'm really excited for that. And that will be an event honoring Chief Golden Light Eagle, and Laura Eisenhower will be there with me. Also, I'll just get into who's all going to be there a little later in the show tonight. But before I get started here, speaking of ancient technology or ancient artifacts, I have these shaman spears, which I invented myself, and maybe they're not ancient. I did actually make them recently, but they're modeled after designs of ancient technology from ancient civilizations, and advanced ancient crystalline technology is what inspired me to make these. So if you want to check out my art, please go over to shamanspears.com. These are all handcrafted by yours truly. They're energy channeling devices, and they're all filled with copper coils, crystals, magnets, and sand I collect from sacred places around the world down the insides. So, yeah, they're super powerful. They're basically for amplifying energy, and they're also painted with crop circles that have been found around the world. So, definitely go check those out, as there aren't a whole lot left in the two collections that I have up here right now. I have a new collection in the works, and it's been taking a lot of my time and energy, but unfortunately I've also been traveling a lot, so I haven't been able to get it out as fast as I would like to, but I'm hoping to have it out kind of before Black Friday, I'm thinking. So hopefully I can get that to work out. Besides the shaman spears, I also have these organite daggers to help with EMF frequencies, help basically negate EMF frequencies. I have organite pyramids and bracelets here. Also, my I Believe in Humans t-shirts that have my Apollo's Odyssey show logo on the back. I have a few of those left. So definitely check all those out. I know Christmas season is coming up. The holiday season is coming up. And shaman spears make a really great gift because they're totally unique. You'll never find anything like them anywhere else because I made them and invented them myself, and I never make anything the same. So definitely a great gift. Definitely a great gift. And I do next day shipping on all orders. So if you're interested, please go to shamanspears.com and check that out. I like to promote that as much as I can on my show because, as some of you may or may not know, I cannot work in Hollywood anymore at the time. Hopefully, not anymore, but for the time being, because I am not quadruple shot up. So, yeah, that's where I'm at right now, and these products are really the main thing that keeps me going, and these are what helps me fly out to different conferences around the country and basically get more connections for more interviews for my show and speak at different conferences. I'm really excited to go to this Star Knowledge conference coming up, and let me just show you it here for a second, and I'll get into it again at the end of the show. But this is going to be in South Dakota. They haven't put me up on the flyer yet, but they're about to. But this is going to be in South Dakota the weekend of November 11th. And I'm really excited to be a part of this, and I really feel honored to be a part of it. Um, I think I want to change up my usual presentation a little bit for this conference, and I'll be selling my shaman spears there. So if you want to go check out tickets for that conference and you want to join me there, that will be at starknowledge1111.com. So I'll actually be selling my shaman spears there, and so that's gonna be a lot of fun. Hopefully, things I can get, like I said, I can get some more spears done before then, and bring the show on the road. So, all right, let's get started here. I'm just looking at the comments. We got Alien Girl 1111, yeah. And who else do we have in here? Leon the Wise. I don't ever know the conversations in these comments sometimes, you guys. Got Jim Davidson, Mike Tags. So great to see you all in here. Renee, of course. Always got Renee in here. I love Renee. All right. Tim Freestone and Caleb Benjamin. Thanks everyone for being here tonight. All right, so let's get started in tonight's show. I'm really excited to, like I said, to get into this topic because it's one that's a major interest of mine. And first of all, if you want some reference with this topic and you want to learn more, I definitely recommend reading any book basically by Graham Hancock. Any book by Graham Hancock. Magicians of the Gods is one of my favorites, but he doesn't really get into the ancient archaeology, more of like how it's possible that there could be advanced civilizations that made advanced technologies. So definitely recommend that. Of course, there's Forbidden Archaeology by Michael Cremo, and that is probably the best work you can get on this topic. And yeah, I mean, of course, there's so many documentaries out there that get into all this as well. I have a lot of different ones pulled up and ready here. So let's just get cracking at this. I actually have, I think, about 17 different um, moots or material objects out of time ready to go here. So let's get into it. All right. So the first one I have here is, let's see, what should I start with here? You know what? I'm going to start with this crazy ancient Greek laptop. Okay, so I actually put this on the main screen for the show. Let me see if I can actually pull this up a little more here. So as you can see here, so apparently this is at the Temple of Delphi and or Delphi. And what does this look like to you? Does this look like a laptop? Because it looks a lot like a laptop to me. There have been arguments that maybe it's a box. But I've never seen boxes that are that thin before, so that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Looks like there's what they say here, maybe USB ports, so that's interesting. I mean, I don't think it's a book, you know. It doesn't really make sense that it would be a book to me, but um, in here we have someone that looks like they're on a tablet. It's another photo. So, okay. So let's get into this here. This actually came out in the Daily Mail. What year was this? 2016. It's been out for a while now. But is this ancient Greek statue proof someone took a laptop back in time, or is it just a tablet? So apparently here they want to get into the concept of time travel. It could be likely with a lot of these objects. Maybe they're from time travel. Who knows? But also, maybe they're from advanced ancient civilizations around the world. Actually, you know what? Let me just stop sharing this for a second so I can get into this with you all. I'm sure a lot of you have like thought about the idea of advanced ancient civilizations around the world. And I just want to say before I get into this that if this isn't something you've thought a lot about or aren't familiar with, like topics such as Atlantis and Lemuria, maybe ancient aliens coming here in ancient times. Like just think about this right now. If our civilization right now was wiped out by, I don't know, like a solar flare, if all our technology was knocked out by a solar flare or some sort of like EMP weapon, or some sort of crazy cataclysm that affected the whole planet, like, Yellowstone going off. I shouldn't even put that out in the ether, but, that's something a lot of people have been talking about. What would be left? Okay, this is something a lot of people don't think about. I mean, first, okay, metal rusts after, I think it is 200 years. So anything that is metal will start rusting away after 200 years. Anything that is wooden will rot after, I think, like 100 years, maybe less. For the most part, I think maybe it depends on the type of wood. Anything that is gold or a very more heavier metal, what could be probably melted down and turned into weapons if, like, civilization had to start over. And another thing to think about is, oh, and then obviously we have stone, which is, I mean, if you think about it, if you look at all the ancient megalithic structures around the world that no one understands how they're made out of stone. And just think, like, what was built in ancient times out of metal or wood or whatever else that we have no evidence of anymore. Um, Crazy to think about, really crazy to think about. I mean, even the Egyptian pyramids, of course, they were sited in white limestone and they supposedly had a gold cap at one point. And we don't, we have knowledge of this passed down to us, but obviously that's not the case anymore. So, these are things to think about. Also, um, one thing to keep in mind is usually kind of people in society, like right now, in our time, most people that are kind of more, techie types, people that are more inventive and knowledgeable about creating things like, our phone, for instance, our phones. I mean, do you know how to make one of these? Do you know how to make one of these? Because I definitely do not know how to make one of these. I couldn't even begin to tell you where to start on making a phone. I do know that there's like something to do with crystals and gold in them. I know there's like some little quartz crystals, some gold, I don't know, some circuit boards, things like that. But I have no idea. I'm sure a lot of you probably also have no idea. And if you do know, that's great for you. That's amazing. But I would imagine that a majority of people on this planet don't know how to make these. They don't know how to make these. I'm pointing at my laptop right now. They probably don't know how to make this or a lot of other things. So, and those kind of people that make those kind of things aren't normally very good at surviving the wilderness. And maybe I'm making a general, perception or whatever here. I mean, there might be someone that's listening right now, like, hey, I make cell phones and I just camped in the woods for a week. But, that's just my general perception of this. I mean, it's kind of true. I think a lot of people would agree that it's probably true. And so if we were in an apocalypse that was very difficult times, do you think those kind of computer nerd types or like engineer types are going to survive out in the wilderness without all their tech stuff? Or even the general regular person that doesn't know how to do or build those kinds of things? Do you think they'll be okay? Do you think you would be okay without all the technology we have today? That's something to think about. If you really think about this, the people that we would consider savages right now, like, or maybe at one time we consider savages, like, the people in the Amazon jungle that have never even like seen a or like they have no idea that there's even any sort of modern day society as we know it. Like they see planes flying over and probably think they're aliens or like ancient gods or something. I don't know. Those people are going to be the ones that are going to survive if an apocalypse happened on the planet. There is going to be nothing to them. They're going to be like, oh, okay, another day. But for people like us, we probably have a much harder time. And I'll say for myself, I spent a lot of time in the wilderness growing up. I grew up in the Midwest. I know I'm in LA. A lot of people like to like, oh, she's just this Hollywood chick or whatever. But actually, I grew up in the Midwest, in the country, believe it or not. So I do know quite a bit about living in the wilderness, I must say. But I don't know if I could handle an apocalypse. Might be a bit much. So, so just keep these things in mind. Like, so if this happened, like, wouldn't don't you think that it would be hard to restart civilization? Maybe there'd be some people left over that were able to really survive and carry on the knowledge of their technologies and what they have and how to build them, which would probably be very few people. And they would just, I would imagine, probably go around the planet trying to give people the information on how to build these things and how to carry them on and maybe how to restart civilization. And so obviously there's a lot of evidence of this happening in ancient times where this group of people came around giving early civilizations some sort of advanced knowledge. And some people say they're ancient aliens, some people say that they were descendants of Atlantis. So, it's just something to think about. So, okay, let's move on here. So, like I said, the Greek laptop. I'm sorry, that was a long tangent. Okay. So, legend has it that the Oracle of Delphi connected priests with supernatural beings who passed along advanced technology and information. And conspiracy theorists claim that this is how a modern day laptop ended up in a Greek sculpture from 100 BC. But historians say the sculpture is just a deceased woman touching the lid of a shallow chest. Okay, I'm sorry, but does that look like a chest to you? I mean, you can't put anything in there. I mean, it's smaller than the kid's hand. I mean the width of it. Like there's obviously you couldn't put anything in there. I would not call that a chest. Just saying. So I am not saying that this is depicting an ancient laptop computer. Conspiracy theorist said in a video he released on YouTube in 2014. But when I look at the sculpture, I can't help but think about the Oracle of Delphi, which was supposed to allow the priest to connect with gods to retrieve advanced information in various aspects. And here's kind of a closer look at that there. The statue Grave Nascos of an enthroned woman with an attendant is on display at the J. Paul Getty Museum in Malibu, California. Lounging in a cushioned armchair, a woman reaches out to touch the lid of a shallow chest held by a servant girl on this funerary, reads the historian's description. So the concept, let me see if this is something that I should, okay. So the concept of this image has been a part of Greek funerary art for centuries and most likely pertains to the hope that there will that they or the hope that oh sorry. I'm trying to read this and they had a typo, so I was like, am I going crazy here? Okay. So it pertains to hope that we'll still have the same earthly pleasures in the afterlife. It is it depicts an object that closely resembles a modern laptop or handheld device with USB ports. Another picture taken by a tourist, we can see the object is wide, but the structure is too narrow to be a jewelry box and doesn't match the depictions of the mythical Pandora box either, he explained. And see, you can see there's like these little holes in it that people think are USB ports. So, um, kind of interesting. The myth says that the Oracle of Delphi would allow priests to connect with the gods. Aliens or time travelers would share advanced information in high tech devices. Those who don't believe in aliens or time travel say the object is a wax tablet that ancient Greeks used for writing with a stylus or pen. But paranormal investigators argue that the wax tablet shown in the funerary relief sculpture does not resemble any other wax tablets seen in Greek art. And so I'm guessing that's what that is there. Still speaking out says the object shown etched in the sculpture is much thinner than the wax tablets and that the woman isn't holding stylus, also seen in Greek art with individuals using the wax tablet. Believers do not see the box as a jewel box or a wax tablet, but a modern day electronic laptop computer with USB ports on the side, which have never been seen in other examples of jewel boxes or wax tablets. The woman's eyes are focused on the inner lid of the object, the same location of a laptop mirror. Okay, so that's interesting to think about. Okay, if you look at this here, if you look at her line of vision, she's looking at the screen. Where would be the screen there? If this was a box, she wouldn't be looking up here. She would be looking down inside the box to see what's inside it. But obviously she's looking at the screen here. I mean, it's obvious that she's holding up the screen, she's looking into it. So interesting. And even goes so far as to argue that the way her fingers are touching the lid looks like she is using a touchscreen device. I can't help but think that Eric von Daniken may have been right all this time and that most of these myths of magical artifacts given by the gods to a very restricted group of individuals in ancient civilizations were high tech devices similar to what we have today. So, pretty cool stuff there. And there's another little look at that there. I'll let you feast your eyes on that for a minute. And I forgot to mention earlier when I said books that are really great for understanding this subject matter, I definitely left out Eric von Daniken and his book Chariots of the Gods. Sorry about that, Eric. Your work is definitely very important. Close some of these tabs here. Okay, so let me catch up on the comments here. Oh, Leon the Wise says he thinks it's a Nintendo DS. That's interesting. The Oracle of Delphi might have been playing a Nintendo. Who knows? Very good observation there. At okay, a Batwitch Wiggler says actually might just be a mirror, but accounts of the black mirrors, etc., might point to a lingering of high technology after the fall. That's a good point. That's something that obviously people have been talking about more recently in regards to the black glass or this sort of black glass technology that's kind of like a smart glass kind of thing. And that's something that people have been talking about that supposedly more top secret organizations have been working with lately, or higher up kind of, or like supposedly it's a kind of like a technology that's being kept from us right now from what I've heard. But that would make sense if it's something that was left over, like maybe, like, so say like an ancient cataclysm hit right now, and then everything I was talking about earlier in regards to how everything would evolve after that would take place. And then all of a sudden it's 2000 years in the future, 3000 years in the future, and all the wood that was remained was rotted, all the metal rusted, and everything that was left that people had from us now were maybe like some, maybe they had some ancient laptops and computers that they were storing properly to make sure that they didn't decompose or rot or rust or whatever. And that would be very hard to do. I mean, just think, like, I don't know if you've seen objects like metal objects from like the 40s, but they're usually not looking so good. So imagine how your computer would look at like 2000 years from now. It'd probably be kind of hard to keep around, but maybe there'd be some things on it that could be stored, or maybe like there would be some left over that were still somehow kept safe to where they could be turned on like 2000 years from now. I don't know. It kind of interesting. So, I mean, maybe that's what that was from. Oh, and someone mentioned the Vatican here. Yeah, maybe there's some things in there in the Vatican library that they might have, maybe they have some ancient laptops in there that we haven't seen. I always like to say that I feel if we're kind of going through cycles of civilizations to where we have an advanced civilization on the planet and it lasts so long and then it collapses and then it starts over, such as, the Kali Yuga suggests happens every so many thousands of years or hundreds of thousands of years or something. Then don't you think that technology would evolve differently every time? I think that people would understand things or see things differently every time, or start learning things differently every time. And I think if that happened, then that means that technology would always be slightly different every time. So we'd always have like maybe like whatever's in that sculpture, it might not be necessarily like what we think of as a laptop, but it might be something similar, like someone suggested the black glass technology. There's so many different things that can be used. And here, I'm just going to pull up another comment here because this looks interesting. Another one by Out Batwitch Wiggler. Yeah, it could be that there may have even discovered some of that tech, like those massive stone containers under the pyramids. Serapeum boxes might have been made to preserve things for a later age. I don't know about that. That's interesting. I like the sound of that. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I feel that, if there was no way to like remake our technology again after some crazy apocalypse, I think that it would make a lot of sense for some people out there to decide to collect as many of these important objects from our civilization as possible and store them somewhere for future civilizations to be able to look at later. So it makes a lot of sense. All right, so I'm going to move on to the next one here. So what do I have next here? I have so many pulled up. Already at a half hour, so we'll see how many we get to. Um, okay, let me see here. Okay, this one, many of you may have heard of this one, and this one really blows my mind. So this is 150,000-year-old pipes in China. So again, a moot material object out of time. Oh, okay. I was saying that wrong this whole time. It's opart or out of place artifacts. Sorry. Is a term applied to dozens of prehistoric objects found in various places around the world that seem to show a level of technological advancement incongruous with the times in which they were made. Oparts often frustrate conventional scientists, delight adventurous investigators open to alternative theories, and spark debate. In a mysterious pyramid in China's Qinghai province near Mount Beigong, there are three caves filled with pipes leading to a nearby saltwater lake. There are also pipes under the lake bed and on the shore. The iron pipes range in size, with some smaller than a toothpick. The strangest part is that they may be about 150,000 years old. Dating done by the Beijing Institute of Geology determined these iron pipes were smelted around 1,000 or 150,000 years ago. If they were indeed made by humans, according to Brian Dunning of Skeptoid.com. Okay, just think about that and put that into perspective here. 150,000 years ago, I mean, our written history probably, arguably, at the earliest goes back to about 5,000 BC with Sumerian civilization, or maybe it was 6,000 BC. Um, so that's a really, really, really long time ago. So, moving on here, and if they were made by humans, history as it is commonly viewed would have to be reevaluated. The dating was done using thermoluminescence, a technique that determines how long ago crystalline mineral was exposed to sunlight or heated. Humans are only thought to have inhabited the region for the past 30,000 years. Even within the known history of the area, the only humans to inhabit the region were nomads whose lifestyle would not leave any such structures behind. The state run news agency Xinhua in China reported on the pyramid, the pipes, and the research began by a team of scientists sent to investigate in 2002. Though some have since tried to explain the pipes as a natural phenomenon, Yang Ji, a research fellow at the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, told Xinhua that pyramid may have been built by intelligent beings. He did not discuss the theory that ancient extraterrestrials may be responsible, saying this theory is understandable and worth looking into, but scientific means must be employed to prove whether or not it's true. Another theory is that it was built by prehistoric humans with techniques lost to humans of a later period. The pipes lead into a salty lake through a twin lake nearby contains fresh water. The surrounding landscape is strewn with what Xinhua described as strangely shaped stones. Rocks protrude from the ground like broken pillars. The head of the publicity department at the local Dalinga government told Xinhua the pipes were analyzed at a local smeltery and 8% of the material could not be identified. The rest were made up of ferric oxide, silicon dioxide, and calcium oxide. The silicon dioxide and calcium oxide are products of long interaction between the iron and surrounding sandstone, showing the ancient age of the pipes. Liu Shaolin, the engineer who did the analysis, told Xinhua this result has made the site even more mysterious. Nature is harsh here, he said. There are no residents, let alone modern industry in the area, only a few migrant herdsmen to the north of the mountain. To further add to the mystery, Zheng Zhang a geology research fellow from the China Earthquake Administration, told state run newspaper People's Daily in 2007 that some of the pipes were found to be highly radioactive. Other theories. Zheng Dong said iron rich magma may have risen from deep in the earth, bringing the iron into fissures where it would solidify into tubes. Though he admitted there is indeed something mysterious about these pipes, he cited the radioactivity as an example of strange qualities of the pipes. Others have said iron sediments may have washed into the fissures carried with water during floods, though Xinhua and other publications in China have referred to a pyramid or even a mysterious pyramid in which pipes were found. Some said that it was a pyramid shaped natural formation. And we all know, I think a lot of us here in this community know that there's no such thing as a pyramid shaped formation that isn't actually a pyramid. Just saying. Another theory is that the pipes were fossilized tree roots. Xinjiang Weekly reported in 2003 that scientists found plant matter in the analysis of the pipes, and they also found what looked like tree rings. The article relating to the finding in a geological theory that in certain temperatures and under certain chemical conditions, the tree roots can undergo diagenesis, transformation of soil into rock, and other processes that can produce iron formations. So I think a lot of us here would like to believe that, it probably is aliens. I'm just kidding. Or maybe advanced ancient technology from an ancient civilization. Who knows? Okay, so let's get on to the next one here. Let me just catch up with your comments. Yeah, tons of pyramids in Western China, Wiggler here says, and that are known to be man-made. Yeah, I am very interested in that topic. The pyramids in ancient China are definitely really fascinating and have not really been explored like they should. So, pretty interesting stuff. Okay, so let's see to get to here next. Okay, this is one that a lot of people know about, and this is the London Hammer, an ancient artifact out of place, or an ancient out of place artifact. Okay, so this is what that looks like here. What could be so unusual or controversial about the discovery of an iron hammer encased in rock? After all, archaeologists have discovered historical artifacts for as long as humans have been searching for their ancient roots. But what happens when an object defies historical study and appears to exist in the mysterious realms between worlds as kind of a time traveler? For what is known as the London Hammer, the world has been wrangling with a seemingly ordinary household tool, one steeped in mystery, archaeological wonder, and for many, unanswered questions. Alleged to date back more than 400 million years, the London Hammer, or as it has also been called, the London Artifact, can be looked at as a study in how the modern and ancient worlds can connect and collide. How else can we explain that an obviously human made instrument linked to the late 1800s never rusted despite the wood transforming into coal? How could the London hammer withstand normal aging impacts such as oxidation, and what explanations can be made for it having been found in a rock formation that precedes human existence? Perhaps it's best to start where the London hammer was supposedly discovered, the tiny town of London, Texas. London Hammer, from Texas to the world stage. For Max and Emma Hahn, it was a summer day like many others. In 1936, the Texas couple took a hike along Red Creek near London, Texas, a tiny community located in the center of the Lone Star State. But the hike was like no other the Hahns had ever experienced, not because of the weather or the beauty of the landscape, but because they discovered a strange piece of wood encased in what seemed to be an unusual formation of rock. It wasn't until 1947 that their son broke through the rock and uncovered what was attached to the wooden handle, an iron headed hammer. For close to 4 decades, the hammer remained a local oddity and relatively unknown until it came to the attention of Carl Baugh, a young Earth creationist, after an article was published on the artifact in the Bible Science newsletter in 1983. Bao was influential in a form of creationism which believes that Earth and all its forms of life were created by a deity's supernatural acts 600 or 6,000 to 10,000 years ago. He promoted the hammer as proof of an antediluvian discovery, which remains in an exhibit of Bao's Creation Evidence Museum in Glen Rose, Texas. Of equal interest to archaeologists, the London hammer posed a scientific dilemma. What could possibly explain how a modern instrument was encased in ancient prehistoric Ordovician rock from between 65 to 135 million years ago? There are many who doubt where the hammer was supposedly found. Others claim the rock formation is consistent with the minerals and sediments of the surrounding area, putting the claim of the rock dating back to hundreds of millions of years ago in doubt. Others claim that the hammer could have been discarded and the rock formation occurred through the process of petrification. Carbon 14 dating of the hammer's wooden handle would provide a pathway to best determine the age of the rock, as well as the hammer. Unfortunately, the hammer's owner, Bao, has only conducted private testing and has the date not published the records. The strongest criticism of Bao's pre-flood theory comes from Glenn J. Cuban, former creationist computer programmer and paleontology enthusiast, who states no clear evidence linking the hammers to any ancient formation has ever been presented. Despite this, there are facts about the London hammer which do shed some light on the mysterious tool. The science behind the mystery. Objects such as the London hammer are commonly referred to as out of place artifacts or oparts, anomalous objects that bring into question geology, archaeology, and the natural history of Earth. The physical facts of the London hammer are as follows. The hammer measures at 6 inches in length with a diameter of 1 inch. The metal is made up of 96.6% iron, 2.6% chlorine, and 0.74% sulfur. The iron head has not rusted since it was discovered in 1936. The wooden handle is unmineralized with small traces of carbonization. While the exact discovery location has not been verified, the lack of sharp nicks seem to confirm that it was not chiseled from a larger rock formation but found loose, as Hans claimed. There is much debate surrounding the London hammer's origin remains unanswered. Was the artifact hit by a meteorite that formed around the tool? According to what is known about the chemical composition of a meteor, the formation's composition would seem to discount this theory. Some counter this by asserting the existence of an ancient advanced civilization that left behind tools eerily similar to those of a more modern era. The most well known argument refuting the London hammer's provenance in ancient time comes from J.R. Cole from the National Center for Science Education, who wrote in 1985 that the stone concretion is real and it looks impressive to some unfamiliar with geological processes. How could a modern artifact be stuck in an Ordovician rock? The answer is that the concretion itself is not Ordovician. Minerals in solution can harden around an intrusive object dropped in a crack and simply left on the ground if the source rock, in this case reportedly Ordovician, is chemically soluble. The mystery surrounding the London hammer remains. For those who believe the hammer represents a kind of mystical time traveler, for others, it is a geological wonder. Whatever the belief, the London hammer does represent our unquenchable thirst for knowledge, meaning, and connection to a larger order. All right. So let's get into the next one here. Let me just go over here and catch up with all your comments. And I want to remind you all, if you want to tip me outside of just YouTube, I also have my Venmo tip jar here at the bottom, scrolling on the ticker across the bottom of the screen if you want to help out your girl. All right, so let me check out these comments here. Jim Davidson says, also time travelers using phones for portals. Yeah, I know there's been a lot of photos of ancient phones in stone as well. I didn't pull up that one tonight because I'm not super sure about the validity of that one. I've heard different things. So, um, Erico Brahman one says, I've seen videos from back in the 40s of a bunch of college age looking women using cell phones, kind of looking like they were trying to hide it. Very odd. Time travel. Okay. So, let's move on here. Let me think. All right. There's so many I have. You know what? I think I'm actually going to do two parts of this. I might do a second part of the show tomorrow. So let's see how far we can get into these here. Okay. This one is pretty wild. And this one is Rama's Bridge. The 1,700, oh, sorry, 1,750,000 year old man made bridge. And this is a photo of it right here. Rama's Bridge, where modern science and ancient myths collide. Hindu tradition has long held the belief that this strip of land was a bridge built by their beloved deity Rama, as described in the Hindu epic, the Ramayana. It has been referred to since antiquity as Rama's Bridge or Rama Setu. Rama is a popular figure in Hindu mythology. The book that chronicles his life, the Ramayana, is a time honored classic. It tells of a time when the gods flew on ships through the air and of giants and monsters that walked the earth. Researchers who have analyzed the Ramayana state that it is an overambitious work of fiction. Is that true? Or is it possible that Adam's Bridge is actually the structure described in this Indian classic? Here's a far away look at the bridge. As you can see, it's between India and Sri Lanka. In the epic Indian, or in the great Indian epic of Ramayana, penned several thousand years ago, another Valmiki speaks of a bridge over the ocean connecting India and Sri Lanka. The epic poem that stretches for nearly 24,000 verses narrates the life of the divine prince Rama and his struggle to rescue his abducted wife Sita from the demon king Ravana, the ruler of Sri Lanka. Rama, the crown prince, was forced to relinquish his right to the throne and go into exile for 14 years. During his stay in the forest, his wife Sita was abducted by the evil demon king Ravana and taken to Sri Lanka. Rama organized an army consisting of monkeys and led them to Sri Lanka. And whenever I hear that story, I always think when it says that he got together um an army of monkeys, that makes me think that maybe, this was maybe around the time of, the Anunnaki supposedly coming here. And I think, around that time, there were people that were obviously genetically spliced with their DNA that were basically Anunnaki hominid hybrids. And then there were the early hominids. I think they were kind of both around the same time. So when they say that he has a monkey army, my understanding or my theory is that this may have stemmed from a time when there were what we think of as modern day humans on the planet, but then also early hominid types that were almost more monkey looking that were all here at the same time. And like maybe he got together an army of these like hominids to help him. That's something that always comes up for me. So I just wanted to share that. Okay, so he organized an army of consisting of monkeys and led them to Sri Lanka, where a lengthy war broke out. In the end, Ravana was defeated, and Rama returned home with his wife to be crowned king. In the story, when Rama's army reaches the ocean across which lies the island of Sri Lanka, the apes construct a floating bridge across the sea by writing the name of Rama on the stones and tossing them into the water. According to the legend, the stones didn't sink because they had Rama's name written on them. Rama's army then used the bridge to cross the sea towards Sri Lanka. And here is Adam's bridge between India and Sri Lanka as seen from Sri Lanka side. So if you can see here, this to me, when you look at just the edges of the shoreline here and how it goes through here and comes over this way, that to me looks very much man-made. I don't see how land could just form in that way. So pretty interesting. So if you look at satellite photos of this region today, you'll notice a faint hint of a connecting strip between the two countries. This so-called Rama's Bridge or Rama Setu, also known as Adam's Bridge, is a long twisting stretch of shell and sandbank connecting the Indian island of Rameswaram off the southeastern coast of Tamil Nadu to Mannar Island off the northwestern coast of Sri Lanka. The bridge is about 50 kilometers long. Much of it is underwater today, but centuries ago it formed an intermittent but otherwise solid connecting link between India and Sri Lanka. The causeway existed as late as the 15th century and was passable on foot as per records kept at the Rameswaram temple until it was flooded in a storm. And here's another image of what that looks like from above. The existence of the bridge has been known in India as well. Sri Lanka since ages, as evident from the legend perpetuated by the ancient epic of the Ramayana. For as long as anyone could remember, the sea separating the two countries has been called Setu Samudram, meaning sea of the bridge. The 9th century Persian geographer Ibn Khaldun mentioned the bridge in his Book of Roads and Kingdoms, referring it to Set Badhai or Bridge of the Sea. The name Adam's Bridge is an early 19th century British invention, a reference to an Abrahamic myth that Adam used the bridge to cross from Sri Lanka to India. Here's another photo of it here. Here's an ancient painting of Rama crossing with the monkey army. The discovery of this bridge is not only important for archaeologists, but it also gives an opportunity to the world to know an ancient history linked to Indian mythology. Here's some ancient painting depictions of this. It's a satellite image from NASA. And you see what I'm saying here in this photo here of the early hominids. It makes a lot of sense to me. Okay, so historians, archaeologists, and researchers in our distant past insist that civilized life began on Earth about 5,000 years ago. They point to the fact that there is no hard evidence to support the existence of a pre existing culture prior to the rise of Sumerians and Egyptians, when alternative historians such as John Anthony West, Robert Schoch, and Graham Hancock proposed that structures on the Giza Plateau in Egypt may be older than currently accepted. Their claims were quickly dismissed. Unfortunately for us, no written record exists which documents the date of their construction, so these complex masterpieces are placed in the generally accepted timeline of human development and culture. But what if there was evidence? What if a structure that was clearly identified in our written and oral traditions were to be found? And what if the stories associated with that site put it unmistakably outside the generally accepted timeline? If an analysis of both the structure and the associated myths were done, and they were both supported by modern science, could it change the face of history, a history we held so dearly? This just might be what has happened at a discovered site in India. Located in the Palk Strait of southeastern edge of India is a chain of limestone shoals. A shoal or sandbar is characterized by a long and narrow strip of land, typically composed of land, silt, and small pebbles that have been deposited over time. This strip of land was once believed to be a natural formation. However, images taken by a NASA satellite has shown this land formation to be a long broken bridge under the ocean's surface. Now called Adam's Bridge, it extends 18 miles from mainland India to modern day Sri Lanka. Hindu tradition has long held the belief that this strip of land was built by their beloved deity Rama as described in the Hindu epic Ramayana. Okay, so I feel like this is repeating a little. Okay, I guess I'm sorry. I restarted that article twice, but okay. Wow. Okay. Let me just delete this here. So, coming back here to see all your comments. I love this comment here. Ariana says, "We are all here at this time for a reason." I totally agree with you. So I'm just looking through the comments here. And I think I'm going to do one more before I go. And then I think I'm going to actually do a part 2 of this tomorrow, everyone, because I usually like my shows to go for an hour. So let me choose one more here. Let me see here. Okay. So this one is of the 2 billion-year-old nuclear reactor that exists in Africa. When we generally think of nuclear reactors, we think of the ones created by humans. They're anthropogenic and technically artificial, designed and manufactured specifically to slow the process of nuclear fission, producing an energy as an alternative to coal power. But surprisingly, nuclear reactors aren't solely human made. So far, only one naturally occurring nuclear reactor has ever been discovered as of this writing. But the key words here are naturally occurring. Located in Gabon, Africa, this natural reactor has puzzled scientists and appears to have been created under a unique set of circumstances unlikely to be replicated anywhere else on Earth. One of the main concerns that the nuclear reactors is the harmful radioactive waste they produce. While nuclear energy is often cleaner than coal burning, the waste produced from its remains radioactive for millions of years. According to the Environmental Protection Agency, being able to safely store nuclear waste is one of the most troubling things that nuclear scientists must face. Studying the unique formation that held researchers to a greater understanding of nuclear fission and possible techniques that could be used to find ways to safely store nuclear waste in the future. In 1972, scientists made a startling discovery. In 1972, French scientists took samples of uranium ore from a mine located in the Central African country of Gabon. In order to test its uranium contents, as Scientific American noted in 2011 write up of what eventually ensued, for the uninitiated, uranium ore is naturally radioactive material comprised of three different forms of the element's isotopes, the most common being uranium 238, the rarest uranium 234, and the last uranium 235 being uniquely fascinating. On its own, uranium 235 is especially of interest to nuclear scientists because of its ability to sustain nuclear chain reactions, which can subsequently create enough explosive potential for things like nuclear bombs per Life Science. The resulting decay of a nuclear chain reaction by the way of the isotope can also create a reaction by the three neutrons uranium 235 emits during this process. One with nuclear scientists can use as an alternative, cleaner power source to more pollutant ones like coal burning. All in all, this process was previously thought to be only possible by way of a technically synthetic or human made process. So, when scientists in 1972 found a clear variance in depletion levels in the uranium or isotope collected from the mine found in the region of Oklo, Gabon, it seems to signal one thing. It laid bare the possibility that a nuclear reactor could organically occur in nature, per Scientific American. But of course, this article is by a mainstream media organization or an organization that is quoting the Scientific American, which is a very mainstream sort of organization, quote unquote, that don't want to get into the possibility that this may actually be made by humans or intelligent beings. So let me just continue this here, though, so you can get all the facts. When the French scientists began to examine the uranium samples mined in Gabon, they expected to find around 0.72% of uranium 235 in the ore. As Scientific American pointed out, this percentage is the same found in other samples created from places around the globe, as well as from the Earth's moon and from studied pieces of meteorite. Instead, the sample contained 0.717 of uranium 235. For many, this is 0.003% discrepancy would seem insignificant, but as Scientific American explained, this is hardly the case. It signaled a total of 440 pounds of missing uranium 235 from the Gabon mine. So, how did this happen and what could have caused it? Thanks to prior research about the process of the isotope's decay, the scientists in 1972 put together that missing percentage had undergone nuclear fission, per Scientific American. This was the first and, as of right, the only discovery of a naturally created nuclear reactor. Naturally, yeah, right. After combing mines for other possible reactors, 16 were unearthed, and the area and its scientific treasures were named the Oklo reactor. Unfortunately, as noted, 16 were eventually destroyed by mining. However, the question remained, how was this naturally occurring nuclear reactor created? So, I'm not going to get into all of this here. I just want to say that, sorry, that there has been a lot of evidence of a nuclear war happening in ancient times. And obviously a lot of this evidence comes from Sumerian texts, Sumerian tablets, which are also related to the ancient story of the Anunnaki coming to Earth. A lot of this evidence is also from the ancient Indian myths, some of it depicted in the Ramayana. And there's actually been evidence of this nuclear war that happened, or basically, evidence of radioactive nuclear waste that was found in the desert, I believe in Africa and parts of India. There are ancient bomb shelters in India that have been found in many places in India, as I showed on a show recently. And also, so a lot of people point to the fact that at the Temple of Hathor or Dendera in Egypt, the stairs are melted in a way that can only happen from a nuclear blast or possibly from I think it was a Z pinch or whatever they call it when the sun puts out a very harsh blast. So very interesting, and I think there's a lot more to this than what they say in this article, obviously. Especially the fact that so much of it was missing from the area. is also very interesting. So, but a billion years ago is a very, very, very long time ago. And, maybe some ancient civil, maybe it might not have been from ancient civilization, but maybe, some ancient ETs came here in a different time period and, uh, you know, basically collected these materials and brought it to their planet or something. Also, think about this. What if, as the Hopis say, I believe it was the Hopis say that our planet went through different or four or five, I believe, different completions of like like a cycle, like basically where we evolved as into human beings and then um some sort of apocalypse or something happened, we had to start over. And so that's really interesting to think about, because what if there was an ancient nuclear war that's actually more ancient than a lot of people believe who study the Sumerian tablets or the Indian mythology? What if there was one that was even older than what we're thinking, and it wiped out the entire planet, and basically the entire planet had to completely restart and evolve from, what is it, like the ancient molecules all over again. You know, it could happen. So I think a lot of people don't really think about that. I mean, if something happened that long ago, how could we possibly have any evidence of that if it was over a billion years ago? Um, so definitely interesting to think about. And I actually have a lot more to get into on tonight's show. Uh, the O parts. Yeah, Leon here says, "Sweet dreams. Hope you're on tomorrow. The good O parts again, madame." Yes, you know what? I think I'm going to leave up all my tabs of everything I found, and I'm going to continue this tomorrow at the same time. So maybe a little bit earlier. So make sure you hit the notification bell and you join me tomorrow. I have a lot more to get into with this, so I'll just go ahead and do part two. So I hope I can see you all tomorrow. Please join me. And before I go here, let me remind you all to please go check out my art, which is at shamanspears.com. My uniquely handcrafted energy channeling devices I've invented myself. They're all uniquely handcrafted. None of them are, I never make any to the same. There aren't a whole lot from these collections, these last two collections, so make sure you check those out before they're all gone. I'm actually going to be I'm trying to travel to a few different places to do some live streams, and I'm going to be speaking at the Star Knowledge 1111 conference, which I talked about earlier, and I'm hoping to make it to the Artemis launch if that happens, the NASA Artemis launch. So if you guys want to help me out and get me over to these places and help me with my travels, it is so much appreciated if you go check out my art. Any purchase of spears, I actually ship out next day. I do next day shipping on all orders, and they make really great Christmas gifts, as well as the other products I have up on the site. So make sure you go check those out at shamanspears.com. And again, if you want to leave a tip for yours truly, like besides just in the comments, you can go to my Venmo tip jar at Apolla Holla. And let me go. And that was the ticker at the bottom of the screen. And then also shamanspears.com here at the bottom of the screen. Venmo tip jar at Apolla Holla. So definitely check those out. And thanks everyone so much for joining me tonight on Apollo's Odyssey. And until next time, over and out.